A very good morning to all. In today's session, I'm going to teach literature review and research design and its concepts in detail. So let's begin from the concept of literature review. What is literature review? A literature review is a process of investigating the existing study to get a new meaningful evidence or information to be added in your research project or research study. It also discusses the published information in a particular subject or a particular subject area, or sometimes the information, or you can see an old information related to a particular subject area within that certain time period is called literature review, or in other words, a review of literature. In general, literature review can be a overall summary of the all sources, or but it is an organizational pattern and are also combined in both summary and synopsis. It is also a summary, or you can say a recap of all the existing or old studies, but in a very reorganized way, a reshuffling of that particular information. It is also gives us a new interpretation of the old material or old facts and combine into a new with old interpretation. It is also an intellectual progression of the various fields like sociology, botany, zoology, management, commerce, including a major debates within or in the respective areas. Depending upon the situation or circumstances, the review of literature may also evaluate the overall sources, and of course, it also advise to the readers on the most relevant or pertinent information. Let's distinguish between a good literature review and a poor literature review. When we talk about a good literature review, it is a synthesis of an available research. It is also a critical evaluation of old material or information which exists or include in an old study. It also has an appropriate breadth and depth, which also known as a comprehensive list of words and vocabulary which will be used in or her research study. A good literature has a clarity and conciseness, and it also uses a rigorous and consistent methods. But a poor literature review is an annotated bibliography, is just give a list of sources which is available in its research. It also confined to description only, which also state a bad literature review. It also includes a narrow and shallow evidence or the facts which are needed or included in his study. Sometimes the literature review will also become confusing and the long-winded, which doesn't portray a some or new meaningful evidence contained in a old material. It also constructed in an arbitrary way, which is a very confused, or you can see an unorganized way, which also stands as poor literature review. So this is a distinguish between a good literature review and a poor literature review, and also indicated the various parameters which has been shown on your screen. Why there is a need to write a literature review? We have a plenty of reasons, but the most important reasons has been described over here. Literature review provides a handy, you can say, information or give a proper guidance on a particular topic. If a researcher have a limited time to conduct or complete his research, literature review gives an overview as an act as a stepping stone for a researcher to complete his or her research study on time. So literature review gives an overview of the old facts and turn into a new facts. Literature reviews also provide a solid background of a research paper investigation. It also gives a comprehensive knowledge of the particular subject area or a particular field, which is very essential in most of the research papers or articles. It also demonstrates the relevance of the research, that whether the research he or she is doing, it is relevant for the readers. It will also portray the meaningful evidence to so that it could help to the organization as well as to the society. For professionals, or in terms of professionalism, they are useful reports that keeps them up to date what is current in the field. So it is very important to keep your reports, to keep your articles up to date or related to the current scenarios or the current topics which are relevant to your discipline and field. Let's talk about, for scholars, the depth and the breadth of the literature review focuses the credibility of the writer in or his or her field. What is the meaning of the depth and breadth of the literature review? It means a researcher is already combining his belief, his ideas, his styles, and accordingly it shows or focus on the credibility of the writer in or his her own field on which a particular scholar or a research scholar is willing to pursue his research study relevant to his own subject area or subject. The basic purpose, or you can say a main purpose of the literature review, is to take a critical evaluation of the facts and the views which are already exist in the area that a particular researcher researching on. So it's in simple words, we can say the main purpose of a literature review is a critical evaluation of the facts and views which are already exist in the existing studies, in the past studies on which a particular researcher researching on. A literature review is not a shopping list. It's not just a list of sources. It is a critical analysis of all the sources which a researcher is evaluating the existing at the past, or you can say present, or of course try to critically evaluate a relationship between the different works performed by the different authors, and it's needed to include in or her study to gain some new evidences relevant to his research area. Let's talk about the sources of literature review. There are three main categories or types of literature sources. The first one is primary, second one is secondary, and third was tertiary. In terms of primary sources of literature review, these are the categories, that is reports, thesis, emails, conferences, proceedings, company reports, government publications, unpublished resources, manuscript sources, and interviews. When we talk about all these sources, and if any of the sources, where if a researcher is applying to a primary data or a primary sources of literature review, these are the categories where a researcher can apply or adopt in his review. Let's talk about secondary. If a researcher is applying a secondary data, then accordingly the researcher will apply the secondary sources of literature review, that will be in newspaper, books, journals, the articles which has been published in the various Scopus indexed and Web of Science journals, or UGC journals, internet sources. If you have get a major, you can say useful information on a particular, you can say net website or internet website or website, so easily you can use that useful information in your source, in your particular research study, and accordingly you can source into your article. some government publications, like we can see UNESCO, WHO reports or publications, that also you can use as a secondary sources, and of course survey. So surveys also be a secondary source of literature review, because it always contains the secondary data, the reports of the various organizations which has been published at the online and offline, and accordingly whether it's related to your topic or not. So accordingly, depending upon the situation, researcher begins to include the results, to include the fact and views in his own study. Let's talk about the hereditary sources of literature review. We talk about indexes, we talk about the abstracts, we talk about the catalogs, we talk about the encyclopedia, we talk about the dictionaries, we talk about the bibliographies. So suppose you don't get any secondary sources properly, you don't get any primary sources properly, so to directly come to the bibliographies. So if you see the list of the bibliographies or the sources which has been included in the particular or the past research studies, so you can see the list of the articles, the list of the journals where you can search or you can research or relate to your research topic. So you can easily get the sources when you use the bibliographies, or you can see the bibliographies of the past research studies. So these are the sources of the literature review where you can, a particular researcher can use. It would be at the primary, secondary, or tertiary, or even most of the research is also most of the researches a researcher can use or used primary and secondary sources as well, or a combination of both. This is a good example of a literature review, whether you have to look up upon the research topic, that how the bullies find their victims, and accordingly a review is also related to this particular topic, either a correlation between the bullies and their victims, or a particular that what are the reasons that bullies find their victims very easily. So this is the exact topic, and according to the topic, you have to find the literature reviews which is relevant to the topic, right? So it is very important for a literature review that whatever the topic stands for, the literature review will also relevant to that topic only. If it is irrelevant, it becomes a poor literature review. So I have already shown you in the earlier slides that what are the good qualities of a good literature review and what should be included in a review. So there are various existing or the past studies has been conducted, like it's a Vegi et al. 2014 is also portraying preferences in victims, and the data is also being collected and researched on either questionnaires or interviews, and accordingly 120 bullies were involved as participants. In fact, the data also shows that most of the participants is already a bully, which stands accounting that as 120 bullies. And the same authors also found that the 27% were in the same grade and belongs to the another grade. So in fact, 50% were not schoolmates, whether it would be relatives or it would be friends. So this is called a good example, a good paragraph, a sample paragraph of a good literature review. And in the particular literature review, you have to show that on what parameters the particular results is being against for. So it also, and you have to state the evidence as well. Okay, this is a research topic and this is the evidence that what I have thought for, it has been proved. So we have to show the evidence according what the author says or said. So this continues to be built up and add to the idea on cyberbullying. So the author is also portraying in this example that how the bullies find their victims is also an idea or generating the idea of cyberbullying that also allow the bullies to create their own persona and images in order to try intimidate others without any physical intimidation factor. So it is very important that you need to understand what the research topic is, and accordingly you have to search the existing studies and what exactly the data says, and it is very relevant to the topic, include in that literature review. So and that stand for good literature review. You can see in the main column in the below that look at how the review is done by covering the key information for the study. You have to state the main and relevant information, especially the statistics, which is very important because statistic and data is also included in the review, so that it is an evidence that has been proved your research study. So and it also critical and it also if the data that you include in your study is also critically analyze the findings. And of course citations are necessary tool. Citations are the numbering are given in the numberings. If the Vegi et al 2015, so there is a number stated as 1. So in the bibliographies or in the reference list, the number 1, that is the detail of the source, a detailed information of the source that you have referred in a literature review. So that's called the citation, which are to be given in the numbers, that is 1, 2, 3. So if the first author is Vegi et al 2014, the number is 1. If I say Robbie Albert, we can say a 2 or 3, and accordingly we just numbering in the bibliographies or in the reference list as well. This is also the another example of giving a literature review. You can also make it in the tabulation, that is what the research is, what would be the techniques has been used, what are the features being used in the existing study, what are the domains actually is being used, what are the advantage and disadvantage of the research study, and what would be the future direction of such research study. So you can also portray your literature review in the example rather than in the paragraphs. In management, in commerce, in psychology, it should be in the paragraphs. But when we talk about the medical science, it can be either it would be in the paragraph, it would be in the tabulation form. So it depends according to university guidelines. But in IGNOU guidelines or under IGNOU, you can see guidelines. In the literature review should be in the paragraphs. So the next concept is what is research design. So research design is a blueprint of an overall research study, or you can say in other words, research design is a plan, is a procedure, is a structure, it is also a strategy of investigation to obtain the overall answers to a research questions or problems. It also portrays an outline of what the investigator do while writing the hypothesis and the operational definition till the end of the financial analysis of the data. And this definition has been given by Kerlinger 1986. In fact, there's another very good author which is called the Seltich, Duchich and the Koch, that is in 1962. A research design is the arrangement of conditions to collect and analyze the data in a very organized manner, which aims to combine the relevancy to the research purpose or objectives in accordance with the structure, plan, design, or procedure or strategies. And that's called a research design. In other words, research design are also the specific procedures which are being involved in the research process, like data collection, data analysis, and report writing. So, research design is a main tool of a research proposal, or you can say a research project. So if the research design is not proper, has been not proper design or implemented as an own study, that means an overall research study it's not proper or it's not according to the order. So it is then a particular researcher has to re-begin is research from the beginning. So it is very important to understand that research design is one of the most important tool of the research project or report. So this is also one of the most important types, which is and their primary uses and how you identify, okay, this is our research topic or which research design has to be applied for. So accordingly, you have to check on that, okay, this research or this research design, it's applied in my research study. So this is a chart which has been formulated and categorized into three parts. The first one is quantitative research design, and the second is qualitative research design, and the third one is a mixed or combination of quantitative and qualitative research design. So when we talk about quantitative research design, it categorized into two categories. Intervention means the action to improve some diseases or to improve a rare disease which has been occurred in India or some other parts of the country. The next one is second category is a non-intervention research, which is called a non-action research. Let's begin. When we talk about intervention research, we talk about the experimental research design. When we talk about the non-intervention research, we talk about the two research design, that is the correlational research design and the survey research design. So when we talk about the experimental research design just explain that whether the intervention which has been applied, whether it influences the outcome of one group which is against to the another group. That's called the experimental research design. So when we talk about the correlational research design, it relate or associate between one or more variables. Okay, whether the one group of individual will be influenced by the another group of individual or by the another group of individual which will be influenced by the first group of individual. So that is the correlation research design. So you need to check whether the correlations between the two or more groups, and that's called the correlational research design. When we talk about the survey research design, it describes the trends of the population of the people. Like, okay, the population of the people having the smoking habits. So how you describe the smoking habits in the past 5 years of the population of India, or you can say the past 10 years of the population of India, and that's called the survey research. If you are surveying of a smoking habits of the population of India, then you have to describe the trends analysis. Trend analysis is a number of years analysis of the population regarding the smoking habits. The next one is qualitative research design. Qualitative research design is classified into three categories. The first one is grounded theory research design, ethnographic research design, and narrative research design. So when you go to the outer or different part of the company, let's say Europe or Germany or Canada, then you use the research design that is ethnographic. Why it is ethnography? Because you will explore the culture of a group of the people in different countries. So if an Indian stay or reside in Germany or in London, then I have to understand or explore the culture of a group of the people to whom I reside with. And that research design, if I'm a researching on a group or a culture of a group of a people, and while residing into another country, that is London or Germany, and that's called the ethnographic research. Even most of the individual or most of the people or researchers are not aware, but if you research or explore the culture of the other people or group of people in other countries, and that type of research is called ethnographic research. And within India, if I've been in a North Indian, so I visit or reside in the South city or a South state, then if I study the culture of a South population or a South people, then we also call the ethnographic research. The next is narrative research. What is narrative research? Narrative research is explore individuals' stories to describe the lives of the people. If you see the documentaries, you can, if you see the various famous personalities of the, you can see, and its documentaries, you will get to know that how they lived their life in the past and how they live their life in the present. So when you study, when you make up a story, when you narrate the story really regarding the life of the people, that how they lived their life in the past and to present, and that's called the narrative research design. So it is mainly used when a particular researcher published the stories, the poetries, and also discussing the life of the people. That's called the narrative research. We can see one of the famous personality like Karan Johar, who have also written a book. It's Unsuitable Boy. What research design has been referred for? That's called the narrative research design, because he's portraying about his own life experience, about his own life. You can say, and a deep life. You can say a depth life of his own nature, and that is portrayed in his own book, and that's called the narrative research design. When we talk about the grounded theory research, we can talk about the root, that to explore or to explain the common experience of individuals, which will be used to develop the theories. When we talk about grounded theory research, it is mainly used to develop a theory. And the theory is mainly based on the individual experiences. So if I experienced in using the past theories which is relevant to the human resource management, like theory of motivation, and I applied to the in its own life experiences, and I explain that experience to the different individuals or to the different readers, so that to develop a theory or to develop a new theory and apply to in his a new study, that's called the grounded theory research. So I apply the old experiences of individual to develop a new theory. If some researchers have such plan, that's called the grounded theory research, and you have to prove that theory into a terms of you can see qualitatively, which your terms into a different principles that you applied for to prove that theory, and based on the experiences, and you have to prove that experience are true or not. And that type of research design is called the grounded research design. Let's talk about the combined quantitative and qualitative research design. It categorized into two parts: mixed method research and action research. When we talk about mixed method research, it combines the qualitative and quantitative data to understand, or it able to explain the research problems or issues. When we talk about the action research, using both the quantitative and qualitative data, individuals are able to sort out or solve the education problems while they are facing in their own educational settings or in their own educational institutions. And that's called the action research design. So action research design is mainly applied for solving the education problems. It would be the teaching style, it would be the teaching procedure, it would be the training of the teachers towards educating the students, towards the administrative issues. So such issues within the educational institution, and that's called the educational, or you can say research design, or we can talk about, in other words, action research design. So when we talk about mixed method research, in most of the researches I can observe, while analyzing the topic, while analyzing the literature review, while analyzing the research methodology, mostly the researchers or the learners will apply the mixed method research. And it is very important to use this method because sometimes you will not get the primary data, sometimes you will not get the secondary data. So accordingly, you can choose the one of the research type of the research design. But when you have some of the primary data and most of the secondary data, then it is very good option and it is a very good strategy to apply a mixed method research design. And that's called a combination of both quantitative and qualitative data. So when you have both, it's called the mixed method research design. When you have one, it's called like quantity or numbers. We talk about the quantitative research design. So when you have a qualitative with its non-numbers, or which is mainly believed on beliefs, views, opinions, experiences, culture, even to describe the stories or explore those narrative stories, poetries, then we use the qualitative research design. Let's begin one by one, taking up a follow-up example, which are mainly the categories of the research design. So when we talk about under quantitative research design, we talk about the experimental design. When we talk about the experimental design or under experimental design, researcher is always begin to test whether this practice is useful for the individual or make any difference for individual, whether the particular medicine is useful to cure the rare disease which being faced by the individuals or the people. And when we talk about testing, when we talk about experimenting some tools, we always talk about the experimental designs because it is always being tested in quantitatively, it always being tested in numbers. It is all, in other words, it is also called the intervention studies or the group comparison study. So it would be the experiment group, it would be either would be control group. The experimental group, it is the group which is a lot of issues or problems has been occurred. Then we talk about the action, that is intervention, to give some treatment, to give some medicines, to give some solution, and then the problem and issues has been controlled. So when we applied such action or intervention to the experimental group, then it reached to the control group, so whether the particular issues has been controlled or not, and that's called the experimental design. Under this particular design, researcher or investigator is always determines whether an activity or materials make any difference in results for participant or not. And that's called experimental design, and that can be tested through experiments. That can be tested through asking, you can say, or through portraying, or you can say conveying the or recruiting the particular individuals to work upon it. There is a one example, a specific examples relevant to the organizations, that is the researchers decide to conduct a study on whether men or women benefit from mindfulness the most. So researcher has decided to conduct a study to find out or to test whether men or women benefit more from their mindfulness or not. So on that basis, they recruit the office workers, either male or female, in large organization at all level of management. So accordingly, when they test, they will get to know that which whether the men or women the most will get a benefit from the mindfulness or not. So that is called the experimental design. So if any of the teaching practice to test on the learners, on the students, that is also called the experimental design. Next one is correlational designs. In some studies, it is very difficult to test, to experiment, or to assign individuals or groups to get it tested. It is sometimes it is very difficult. So it is very essential to associate or just to find out the relationship between such groups, to find out the impact level of such activities or materials on that groups. So on that, in that particular scenario, correlational designs are the most appropriate, you can see, tool which the investigator could apply to. So correlational designs are procedures in quantitative research where the investigator measures the degree of association or relation between two or more variables using the statistical tool. It would be either the Gall Pearson tool, it would be the rank experiment correlation tool, whether it would be the t-test, whether it would be the f-test, that's called the statistical tools. So in terms to find out the relations between the any of two or three variables, and accordingly the statistical tool will apply. It would be ANOVA, it would be chi-square, it would be t-test, it would be f-test, it would be Carl-Pearson correlation test, it would be rank-Spearman correlation test. So any test would be applied to find out the relation, but it depends upon the research topic and depends upon the research objective. So this is one of the example which has been shown on the screen to determine whether there is a relationship between the level of education and individual income. As per my perception, it is yes. It is a strong relationship or a positive relationship between the level of education and the level of income. Why? Because both are interrelated to each other. If a person having a good income will get a good education, either would be high cost and low cost. So it depends. So, and when you find out the relationship between these two variables, a correlation design, research design will be applied for, and accordingly the statistical tool will be applied. Survey design, it is also another form of quantitative research, and it is mainly to test an activity or material or interested in association among variables. Such designs will not refer for testing to find out the association. That is not survey design. Survey design is to get a survey on a very journal issues and getting or collecting the data from a law or considering a large population of India of individuals. So survey is a good procedure to use when the sample size is more. It would be lakhs, it would be crores, or it would be thousand. Then survey design is the most appropriate type to apply for, and on that basis, the investigator prepared the questionnaires to get or to collect the information or data from a small group or a large group, which is called sample, to identify their attitudes, their belief, their perceptions, their behavior, their knowledge, their awareness, or when to assess the various characteristics of a large group of people. It's called population. When a researcher collects the data from a small group, it's called sample. But when a particular researcher collecting a data from a large population, from a large group of people, it's called a population. So from the population, if a particular investigator collect or doing a survey from a small group, that's called sample. For from a large group, collecting the data from a large group of from a large group of individuals. So accordingly, the researcher collect the samples when they get the data from a small group from a large population. Next one is qualitative design, the grounded theory design. Grounded theory design, as I told, they are very systematic qualitative procedures to generate or gather the journal information which explain the process or any action or any interaction among the people. So it could be done by interviewing the respondent, could be done by asking or filling up the questionnaires. So accordingly, once to get the information, so a model or figure will be designed which always portray the journal explanation, and that's called the grounded theory design. For example, if a particular company has decided to improve their product or service in a structured way, so what the company would do, they just let them invite the marketing executives so that they can express their views how to improve their product or service. So it is very important. That's called the grounded theory design. So the people who are already experienced, who are already working in the marketing department, they are well efficient and sufficient to give their to take up their opinions and views on to improve their product or service in a very structured or organized manner, and that's called the grounded theory design. Next one is ethnographic designs. As I already told, when you study the one group of individuals, their culture, how they work, how they live, how they interact, how they behave, how they reside in his one room, how they reside with their friends and relatives, how they behave with their friends, how they study in a reputed or a A grade university or a C grade university, how they describe their culture within the educational settings. If a particular researcher or investigator is to describe, analyze, or interpret any cultural group of individuals where regarding their behavior, belief, language, which that develop over time and according to the time period they study, and that type of study, it's called ethnographic research design. You can see up an example on your screen that anthropologists traveling to an island, living within the society on said island for years and researching its people culture through a process of sustained observation and participation. This design is only for applied when an investigator have a so much curious or so much deep interest about the culture of other, about the culture of a other, of a group of people or other group of individual who reside in different countries. So they have an interest to travel, to interpret it, to describe, to analyze the cultural group or a culture of a group of individuals, to study or to identify their behavior, their beliefs, their views, their language, that automatically changes over time. So if a particular researcher or investigator such doing this type of study or doing such study, that's called the ethnographic designs. The next one is narrative research design. Narrative research design, I already explained in the chart that when a particular investigator is or explore the narrative stories or poetries which being related to its own study, and that's called the narrative research design. So it is not necessary a particular investigator describe or interpret the group behavior ideas. Sometimes it also used to you can say narrate or tell the stories of one or two individual to explain the topic. So, and that's called the narrative research design. So you have a research topic, but you are using the stories of the people. If you see the international thesis, if you see the international research projects related to management studies, related to commerce, related to psychology, related to sociology or social work, you can always see the narrative research design type. Why? Because it always in that particular projects or thesis, a particular researcher can see the narrative narrative stories that share the experiences of you can see individuals related to a particular scenario or environment, and that's called the narrative research design. So there is a particular section of the narrative research design where the most of the people or different type of people narrate their stories related to the topic. So in especially when we talk about in education sector, those stories which are often related to the school classroom experience activities in the schools, and such stories will be used in the projects like stories, interviews, life histories, journals, photograph, other artifacts. Everything will be a part of the narrative research design. So if one person narrates his experiences related to motivations of individuals, then he can that the investigator can use the photographs, the investigator can use their experiences or tell the stories in the particular research study. They can use the life histories, they can use the past examples or the famous personalities of the to include in their research study. In fact, any journals which has been used and that stories has been mentioned in the existing or the past article, that also can include into your own study to just conclude something new meaningful evidence, to conclude something new information from the old information, and that's called the narrative research design. Next one is mixed method design. When we talk about mixed method design, it is also the one of the combination method at the quantitative and qualitative. So a particular investigator firstly decide that whether he used to use either quantitative or qualitative or both. So when a researcher has decided to use the both or a combination of methods, that is quantitative and qualitative, and that's called the mixed methods design. Basically, when we talk about mixed method designs are the procedures to collect, analyze, and mix of both the type of data, that is quantitative and qualitative, in a single study or a multiple studies. That's called the mixed method design. And it is under this design, a particular researcher need to decide the focus to which form of data an investigator has to give a more priority, and which type of data or which form of data he will collect first, either in a sequence manner or either in a concurrent manner, and how they mix up the data, how they integrate or connect the data relevant to their research objectives, what theories they will use to guide the study. Either it would be social science theory, would be either advocacy theory, and that's called the mixed methods design. So when you mix two methods or two type of data, a particular researcher has to decide what type of data, whether it would be the sequence order, whether it be concurrent order, whether he integrate or connect the data both, and what theories he will use to connect to connect the both, or how they guide the study. And that's called the mixed method design. Whether in the quantitative, basically the secondary data, the quantitative data or secondary data will be used. When we talk about the qualitative data, test images, pictures, even the biographies would be used in qualitative data. So that's called the mixed method data, which is very essential to use. As I already told you, that most of the research reports, most of the research study, mixed method design or mixed method has been used in their research methodology section. The last is action research design. So as per this particular type, action research design utilized both quantitative and qualitative data, but they mainly focus more on the strategies, on the procedures which has been used to address or to show up or portray a practical problems. So action research design are a systematic procedures which will used by a researcher to gather the quantitative and the qualitative data to address the real problems or real issues of the society. So when we talk about education and how what exactly the teaching procedure has been used, the teaching intervention has been used, whether the students were able to learn from adopting a new technology, or whether the faculties or the teacher are able to grab that new technology so that they can teach to their students. So such type of issues will definitely occur in every educational institution, and the main purpose of applying this research is to find out the solution, to focus on improvements in their education setting. It would be related to the teaching, it would be related to the learning of the students, it would relate to the adopting a new technology, either it relate to any intervention so that to improve or to solve that problem or issue, whether it would relate to the learning part, it would relate to the teaching style, etc. So in some action research design, you seek to address or solve local or practical problems like in the classroom discipline issues. Every time discipline issues were being raised from the teacher or from the students, while the students come to complain about the discipline of a teacher, or a teacher comes to complain about the discipline of the students. So this is the exactly that's a local practical problem, and an action research design can easily apply for, because it's mainly focused to improve. It's mainly focused to solve the problem, applying the strategies, applying the, you can see, the ways to reduce such issue. So in other studies as well, whether it would be a psychological study, or it would be the management study, or it would be sociological study, the main objective is to empower, to transform, to emancipate individuals in education or educational settings. So it is very important to understand that in our own lifestyle, in our own you can say in our own life settings, our health issue is always a major problem. That is a real problem of every human being, whether it relate to overeating, whether related to a stomach issue, whether related to a blood issue. So Accordingly, we have to apply the action research design. We can talk to parents, we can talk to our friends, we can talk to a family, we can talk to a doctor openly so that such issue can be improved related to a health issue, and you can more motivate to focus or improve your health according to the guidance of your pupils, according to the guidance of your peers, according to the guidance of your parents, teacher, and of course, doctor. So that's called the action research design. So, what is the difference between mixed method and action research design? The main difference is that mixed method it's mainly focused on the data, which type of data would be used, which type of theories would be used, which type of form that you use to collect the data, which form of data you will give more priorities. The most important is importance, how you mix up the both in a single study or a multiple study. How the procedures would be used, what procedures would be used while combining the both, and that's called the mixed method design. And it is mainly forced in every study, whether it would be related to the educational study, whether it's related to the management studies, related to engineering studies. So that's called the mixed method design. So it's not focused on only one type of study. It's a various studies where the mixed method can will be applied or can be applied depending upon the situation. But when we talk about the action research design, it is mainly focused on the practical problems. It is mainly focused on the real problems. So when we talk about our health issues, that is a real problem of every human being. So the action research design will be applied for. So when such topic will be, and for such practical problems, such real problems, if a particular researcher focusing on to study, and that's called the action research design. So when we talk about the second main category is the action research design, and the mixed method design is a combination of both. So when we talk about the qualitative research design, we focused upon three categories. We have to think that okay, out of three categories, I have to use this category into my research study. The first one is grounded theory design. Second one is narrative design, and the third one is ethnographic design. So these are the three categories: grounded theory design, ethnographic design, and the narrative research design. That's these three categories are called the qualitative research design. When we talk about the quantitative research design, we always talk about the experimental research design, when you test something, whether it would be medicine, whether it would be any teaching intervention, any teaching strategy on the learners or a group of individuals like that. The second one is correlational research design, and the next is survey research design. So when we talk about the quantitative, or a particular researcher is using a quantitative study, a particular investigator will need to work upon that which type will be used. So it depends upon the quantitative data. It depends upon the qualitative data, that which type will be used. It depends upon the mix of the data, you can say quantitative and qualitative, and accordingly they use the type. And that is all the research designs stands for, which is actually a blueprint of the overall study, a process to apply the what type of research design need to use in his own or her research study. So it is very important that literature review and research design will be essential, or you can say used in his own research study, and both are very important sections in a research paper, in a research report, thesis, and project. This is all about today, a detailed description about the research design and the literature review. That's all for today. Namaste to all. Thank you.